I'd like for everyone to think for a moment about the value of human life. And does one person's life have any more value than another person's? The current fee-for-service healthcare system rations out care based on the patient's ability to pay. I believe this is unethical. It is criminal. 95% of the country is still functioning on this fee-for-service model. I believe everyone should be treated the same. Everyone should have access to primary care regardless of their ability to pay. Hi, I'm Dr. Faisel Syed. Welcome to another episode of Faisel and Friends. We're here because we believe everyone deserves access to quality primary care, and ChenMed needs physicians to take care of them. Tonight's topic is from burnout to breakthrough. My co-host and moderator of the chat is Dr. Dan Mccarter. Welcome, Dr. Dan.
Hey, Faisel. It's great to be with you again this evening.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's so great. I love this. I love how we've been able to get onto social media, have this podcast, and connect with wonderful people, not only across the country, but now even international tonight.
I agree. And I mean, this is a great topic this evening. I mean, this is certainly, I think going through COVID, a lot of people have really felt the stress. So I'm really looking forward to this discussion.
It's like the pandemic ripped off a Band-Aid with all the problems that were there that were just Band-Aids up, little Band-Aids here and there. It just ripped it all out. Everything from healthcare delivery to the way doctors are treated and the way doctors feel. So without any further ado, let's welcome our friend for this evening, Dr. Irene Kopp. Dr. Kopp, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's so great to have you. And I was so moved by your story. So I would love, to hear, especially for the students, people who are interested in pursuing medicine, to hear about how you have come into this part of your life. Like what was that pivotal moment in your life where you realized, okay, enough is enough?
Thank you. And I want to start by saying, when I was listening to your intro, you had the Hallelujah chorus going. My head was nodding, going, everyone has the right to healthcare. Everyone, it was just like,
Can you believe it?
Yes. And I love your audience, and it just makes my heart sing that I have this opportunity to help a community that I am so passionate about. So thank you for having me. So as you know, Dr. Faisel and Dr. Dan, you'll learn, I started out as a chiropractor and then became a medical doctor, amongst other things. And while I was still a chiropractor, 9 years into practice, I was a single mother trying to be the perfect doctor, the perfect mother, I was on the BIA, the PTA, you name it, I was there. And then one day I hit the wall. Literally. I lost consciousness and drove into a 3-story high, massive rock face in northern Canada. And my 2 young sons, who were 4 and 6, were in the car with me. Now, I wasn't drowsy. I didn't fall asleep at the wheel. I hadn't been doing drugs. I hadn't been drinking. None of that. And none of it mattered, because I almost inadvertently killed my young sons and myself because I was physically burned out and didn't know it. And I broke 10 bones. That was nothing. The pain of that was nothing compared to the emotional pain, the shame, the guilt, the remorse that I almost hurt and almost killed the 2 souls that were closest to me. Dr. Faisel, we were talking about your children and your beautiful family before in the green room. And like, imagine, I don't want you to imagine too much, but like, can you imagine how it would feel to be in that place? And it was truly the lowest moment of my life. I was in hospital, first SARS quarantine. Fun fact. So in other words, I couldn't see anyone, couldn't see my kids. I was laying flat for all of our are medical techie types, right? It's like the number of bones I had broken. It was like I couldn't move. I was on total bed rest, had no visitors, couldn't see my kids, and I was going crazy with fear for them and wondering what was happening because my youngest son had a catastrophic brain injury. It took them a couple weeks before they decided he was going to live. And even after that, because of the emergency surgery that he had, one of the top neurosurgeons in the country said, he'll never walk again, he'll never talk again, and he won't pass high school. That was the prognosis.
My goodness.
And I'm hearing this on a phone. And in the meantime, my 6-year-old had quickly developed PTSD because there were adults who were vomiting at the scene of the accident from what they saw, and he witnessed it all. And he was being thrown out of school every day, threatening to hurt everyone else, threatening to hurt himself, spitting on and throwing chairs. And it was like, and I'm powerless. And it truly was the lowest moment of my life. And I'm a very positive person. And it was like, it was that moment I could, do I even deserve to live?
Wow.
And what saved me, thank the Lord, was the mama bear instinct. You can say Papa Bear, the mama bear. It was understanding that it wasn't about me. It was understanding that I had a choice, that I could wallow in, and I use the term wallow, bawling my eyes out all alone in a hospital room from the guilt, the shame, the remorse, beating myself up for what had happened. Or I could give myself the grace to understand that I was just one of millions who were going through that same burnout. Mine showed up as a catastrophic car accident, losing consciousness. It can be anxiety, depression. I'm talking to the choir. I know that, right? And it was giving myself that grace to understand that I wasn't alone and that I had a choice, that I could either continue spiraling down in guilt and shame, or I could choose to use, I call it transmuting that burden of guilt and shame into the burden of responsibility to help even one family avoid the suffering that my family and I suffered. And the mama bear sprung into action. And she said, thank the Lord. The mama bear decided, no, her kids still needed her. And that I needed to give myself the grace, the same grace I would give a patient if they told me the story. And to understand that with my personal experience and my background, that I was the perfect one to get this message out. And so I spent years searching for the tools to help my family heal. And fast forward, I'll let you know that my youngest son not only walks and talks, he's in his 4th year of engineering at one of the best schools in Canada. I'm a proud mama now. Thank you. Because I refuse to believe that dismal prognosis that we were given. And I went searching for the answers to help everyone in my family heal. Then it was like, okay, how can I help my patients? I went back and I got my medical degree. I have like 7 coaching certifications and I do acupuncture. In other words, anything that I needed to help my family heal, I was prepared to do it. Certified in brain injury, you name it, I did it because I was not going to allow anything to stop me. And even with all of that, I say that the number one thing that sets me apart from anyone else is that personal experience, is that ability to go, yeah, I've been there. And I'm here to tell you there is hope. There's another way. You don't have to spiral down like I did. And don't believe that it only happens to other people. Because doctors make the worst patients.
We definitely do make the worst patients. And Irene, thank you so much for sharing that story. It's incredibly brave of you to be so open and so vulnerable about the worst moments of your life. I mean, that's a moment that every parent, it's a nightmare, it's unimaginable to be alive and to be so helpless when it concerns, our children, are the ones that are most dependent on us at their most vulnerable moments. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's a very powerful story, how in just a moment, in an instant, your whole life can change.
Absolutely. It only takes that moment.
Doctors, from even before we could become doctors, medical school, residency training, and then of course getting into our careers. You're right. We do make the worst patients. I mean, we have now reached a point in society where the doctors ourselves, we've become the patients now. We're the ones who need to treat ourselves and help treat each other and really stand up to all the ridiculous drivers. I just had a conversation with someone who's outside of the medical field, was asking me about giving lectures in residency programs and just asking me about medical residency training in general. And I said, well, now we have work hour restrictions, thank God. And he said, oh, that's great. And I said, yeah, now residents have a cap. They can't work more than 80 hours a week. And he replied saying, you mean every 2 weeks, right? And I said, no. I said, it's 80 hours a week. That's considered progressive in medical residency training by putting a cap of 80 hours a week. I mean, it is just so unrealistic. And so I would like to know, for residents and for young doctors right now who are in a situation, many of us carry through and push through because of the inertia. The inertia carries us through. We've already committed to getting into medical school. You commit to going through everything that comes with that, all the boards and all the certifications and all, and you just carry yourselves through. Even in the hard moments, you're just like, hey, well, I'm in it this far. Just got a little bit more longer to go. And finally, you get to, say, completing your residency training, and that's just the beginning. It's just the beginning of your career. So I'd love to hear some of the strategies to help break through from this cycle of burnout.
I would love to, and I especially love the opportunity to talk to people who are at the beginning of their career. And you are so right. What you're describing, I call the gauntlet mentality. Right? That it's not good enough that we are, that we want the best and brightest minds who have a calling to get into an industry that can be so challenging on so many levels. It's that we have this gauntlet mentality. Well, I did it, so you can do it too. And if you can't, don't have what it takes, then, maybe you're just not meant to be here. Right? Like, it's that, would we expect our patients to do that? Seriously, would we talk to our patients that way? No, of course not.
Of course not.
And it's really truly, and there's an aspect, again, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, Dr. Faisel and Dr. Dan, because I love, from the moment I was introduced to Chen Ned, even though I'm not American, I love your whole model of care and your mission statement, right? Not only value-based care, preventative care for your patients, you're caring for your doctors, you're caring for your teams. And we need more of that out there.
Absolutely. What good are we to our patients if we don't take care of our doctors and the care teams first?
Absolutely. And here's the thing. It's very true that the momentum carries us through, right? That promise, that lure of the someday, right? Having that, I call it the magical degree, right? Behind our name, like, just, and everything that goes with it, including helping patients. And at the same time, what I recognized was that my physical burnout didn't just happen because I was overworked. It happened because I was set up for failure. based on what I call the 4 big blocks to success. And those 4 big blocks include your faulty programming. That faulty programming that says you need to give, give, give until you're bled dry. Be perfect or don't show up at all. That you need to prove your value, right? You're about to have a baby, another baby. And it's like, you don't say to the baby, you need to prove that you deserve to be here, that you deserve to be fed, that you deserve to have, your diaper changed. Of course not. A baby is valuable just the way they are. And yet somewhere along the way, we are inundated with this fear-based programming that for millennia kept us safe from saber-toothed tigers and everything, but it doesn't help us in this current age, right? The pessimistic programming, this need to achieve and prove our value to belong. And those are what I recognize because I ate right. I've been a meditation instructor, neurophysiological meditation instructor for longer than I've ever been a doctor. So I meditated, I ate right, I exercised, I did all the right stuff. And yet I still burned out. So why?
Can I we got a question, and I think this is a good time to intersperse if it's okay. Doc Heather Lewis asked to describe what is burnout, and why can I guess we be the worst compliant patients? But I mean, it is a good point to bring in what is burnout at this point, if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And so I'm going to lovingly disagree with the World Health Organization and Dr. Christina Maslach, and for that matter, Dr. Freiberger, who actually coined the term burnout, because it was and always has been associated with workplace stress and only mental and emotional, right? And the fact is, just as we don't expect to treat our patients in a vacuum, we can't operate and live in a vacuum, right? We don't exist in the workplace and then have a different existence outside. So life happens, right? So there's adversity. COVID has shown us that, right? Like needing to work from home and juggle children homeschooling and oh my goodness, what if, family members or we get COVID? What if, God forbid, we actually have other conditions like developing breast cancer or Alzheimer's in a parent, or we have an injury? In other words, life happens that's always going to throw us curveballs. And it's not just the mental and emotional. I call mental and emotional burnout the canary in the coal mine. And for those of our listening audience who are perhaps not familiar with that phrase, up until actually about the late 1980s, coal miners would take a canary in a cage down into the mines with them because they're way more sensitive than humans are to toxicities. And if the canary keeled over, the miners knew they had to get out right away. So the mental and emotional burnout and the health challenges that we are facing, and I know that, and you know that the medical community is now saying that mental health is the next pandemic. Well, as far as I'm concerned, it was already here. It's just gotten way worse.
Yeah.
And we also know that if we don't take care of the person even before the mental and emotional health challenges hit, then we're going to be facing all of the physical health challenges that come from chronic stress and adrenal exhaustion, metabolic syndrome, sleep, insomnia, weight gain, diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune conditions, pain and inflammation, cancer, viral infections like COVID, right? In other words, if we don't take care of the mental and emotional, it means down the road, and maybe not all that far down the road, we are going to be faced with another pandemic of the physical burnout. And I lovingly call that flameout syndrome, based on the aviation term of flame out, that you can lose one or more of your engines and you might actually be able to pull out of it. You might also crash and burn, as I did. So why do doctors make the worst patients? That is like that second part of the question. So it starts, first of all, with that gauntlet mentality, right? We got to prove we're strong. We got to prove we're tough. You know, we help everyone else. We're not supposed to need help. God forbid, right? It's like we're supposed to go it along. Even the women are supposed to suck it up and take it like a man. Is that chauvinistic of me to say that? I'm being sarcastic.
And I have no comment of it. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, in other words, that is the gauntlet mentality, that we are so used to being the problem solvers for everyone else, that for us to be vulnerable and admit weakness. And there's also the fear and the shame and the stigma that goes along with burnout in admitting that we're struggling, right? There's that, oh, you're weak. Oh, you want a vacation, huh? Right? That's that attitude. And at the same time, there's that programming that I recognized was at the root of mine. And it's the faulty programming that says we need to be the stressed achiever, that we need to be perfect, that we need to prove our worthiness. And then you have the calling on top, that calling. I don't know of a single doctor ever, especially that ever made it through the whole training, that just got in it for the money. Whereas we have a calling that we do want to give and give and give because we see the need of it. And especially our populations, especially when we develop those relationships, we want to be there for them. Our patients are allowed to retire. For some reason, doctors aren't allowed to take vacation or retire.
A lot of it is right. I feel like a lot of it is in us too.
Yes.
I as you were speaking, I was thinking about my own situation. Like I recently, 3 years ago, well, it's not too recent now, 3 years ago, I was working in a very supportive environment. I thank God, I was working as a primary care doctor with ChenMed, no billing. I didn't have to deal with a lot of the nonsense that most doctors have to deal with in the billing system, the fee-for-service healthcare delivery system. But a lot of it was in me. I was tired for a couple of weeks. I felt myself getting progressively tired. No fevers, no chills, no cough, no nothing. My podiatrist at the center was telling me, Faisel, there's something wrong with you. There's something not right. And I told her, I said, I've been burning the candle at both ends. I got a lot going on. But Thanksgiving's coming right. Actually, yeah, it was just right before Thanksgiving, my in-laws' 50th anniversary. And I told her, I said, well, I can just push through and I'll make it to Thanksgiving and I'll get plenty of rest. Well, that didn't happen. The night before I ended up in the emergency room, I was in the clinic and I didn't realize I was stumbling in the clinic. And one of the patients actually made a comment to our center manager saying she was concerned that I was intoxicated. And the center manager came back and said, do you realize you're stumbling? And while she was talking to me, I was leaning up against the wall. I said, I'm really, really tired. And she sent me home. When I got home, I couldn't even open my car door. I felt so weak. And I went straight to bed. And then it started a roller coaster of 104, 106 fevers all night. And then I was in the emergency room the next morning with pneumonia. And anyone could see it from a mile away. Perhaps if it wasn't a foot doctor warning me that there was a problem, I would have taken it more seriously. Again, just kidding. But a lot of it is in us too. You could be working in an environment where you have teams of people there to support you. You could be working in an environment where you're not worried about all the non-doctor stuff that really burns us out. It's not the medical complexity. It's the lack of support and all the non-doctor administrative bureaucratic work. But you're right. It's us too. We kind of have this mentality about, in residency, sleeping, standing up, or not eating, not going to the bathroom, all the basics that we just kind of push through because it is what you got to do. A lot of it is in us. It's that culture.
It's the culture. That's the programming. There are there are other blocks as well that come into it. The stressed overachiever, right? That secondary gain that you get from, oh, I can't talk now. You see how busy I am? I'm so busy. I have no time to talk. I have a deadline tonight, right? Or, right. So examples of that, or the martyr. I work so hard and I help so many patients, but they just don't appreciate me. And when you say it's all inside, it is like, and here's an example. Have you ever met somebody who is like a perennial worrywart? That they can make a mountain, like Mount Everest, out of a molehill, no matter what? In other words, they will go looking for something to worry about. In other words, that is the internal programming that sets us up for failure. And I'm going to throw in another layer to this, and that is trauma. It's our past trauma, our personal past trauma. I had an abusive childhood. I'll own that. My father was a veteran who witnessed atrocities in the Congo at a time where it was supposed to be UN peacekeeping, and it wasn't recognized at the time, and it wasn't supposed to be a war effort. So he was told, suck it up, take it like a man, and by the way, this is confidential, and you're not allowed to talk to anybody. So what did he do? Like any good soldier, soldiered on and self-medicated with alcohol. Right? And so there was the trauma of the abusive childhood. And it doesn't have to be somebody that has an abusive childhood like mine. I did like this informal study in a doctor's lounge one time. And so highly unscientific. And yet every single one of the doctors in that doctor lounge had been bullied as a child. So you look at that. Then you look at the intergenerational trauma, the trauma that our parents have gone through, our grandparents have gone, where they role modeled the fear responses and passed that down to us. And now, again, I know I'm preaching to the choir, they've shown in research studies that there's what I call epigenetic PTSD, where it can be our ancestors that we've never even had contact with, that it modifies the DNA so that we show the same fear responses, and it's even been shown to impact our physical health in children born after, say, the Dutch famine in the Second World War, the Holocaust, the Civil War POWs in the States. And they looked at their life expectancies and their illnesses compared to even their siblings that were born before, same household. And yet it impacted them physically, mentally, and emotionally, right? So if you look at the cultural changes throughout the world, changes is not the right word, challenges that different cultures have faced, war-torn countries, famines, the Great Depression, the wars, slavery, the Aboriginals. I'm part Aboriginal, so the Aboriginals and the atrocities that they have gone through. My ancestors were forced marched along the Trail of Tears. All of that impacts, not just the nurturing. And I look at this, and what I've come to the conclusion of is that it's like having a high performance sports car, like a Bugatti or a Ferrari, and you want to take it as fast as it can go, but you got your foot down on the pedal, but you're riding the brake. Right? In other words, you're either not going to go as far as you want, or you're going to wear out a lot of components really fast. Okay. And so all of these, the programming, the trauma, the victim patterns that I've identified, even the fears that are passed down and that we are role modeled and taught, cause massive energy inefficiencies, so that we spend so much time trying to overcome those, and it just wears us down. And that's where that physical, mental, emotional burnout or flame out syndrome comes from. Yes, Dr.
Okay.
Good.
And I think Dr. Lewis is asking the obvious question, given the title of this session, is how do we break through and possibly avoid burnout? So I think that's a good question at this point.
Absolutely. How much time do we have?
We've got time.
I'm being very practical because we teach something in 30 seconds, in a minute.
Yeah.
Right. So in other words, I have different what I call SOS tools that I teach that are all designed to minimize the stress response quickly. And that's the very first step is truly giving yourself that grace and understanding that you need to reset your stress response. And self-care is important, but guess what? Self-care is conscious, right? We know that stress impacts your brain like a frontal lobotomy, right? Wipes out your prefrontal cortex, your executive functioning. So you can't think straight. You can't make, logical decisions. You can't think of creative solutions. You have no motivation to get up, and it's got up and gone, and you have no emotional regulation. So you either cry at the drop of a hat or you fly off with a handle at your family, right? That's all part of it, because when you're in that stress response, that survival mode, you go into what you're hardwired for, and there's no right or wrong, right? Just like as a gazelle runs, a honey badger fights, and a rabbit shivers in fear and stays put and hope you don't notice, right? We do the same, right? And it's completely primitive response that has no logic whatsoever. And that is why it's so important that we take care of and use what I call the SOS tools to quickly bring your executive team back on side so that you can start thinking again and functioning again and making those good decisions. So I'm happy to show or explain.
Yeah, because basically, once you're there, like once you're in a situation where you're like, oh my God, you're already in that dangerous space. You're in the limbic part of your brain. We got to get back to being the scientist or get back to thinking again. So let's say if you have 3 stages, you have someone that realizes that, oh my gosh, I'm in over my head. You've got, that's like the early stages, and of the physical, the physical feelings of, okay, I'm in it. You've got people who are like, they know what's going on. They could tell. They're walking around like a zombie. They're completely disconnected. Like, I'm just going through the motions. They have responses like, hey, I'm living the dream, but you could tell that's a walking zombie. And then you've got the people who are really just on the verge of crashing. And I guess you can crash anytime. But if you could offer us your SOS, actually, you know what we could do? Well, let's take a quick 20-second commercial break, because look at the time, and then we can bring back and we can close on her SOS.
Love it.
ChenMed honors seniors with affordable, top-of-the-line care, and we're expanding. We're opening 25 new centers this year, including centers in 2 new cities, Houston and Detroit. Join us as we bring better healthcare to more seniors. Head to chenmed.com/physicians for more information.
See, it really was only 20 seconds. But I just saw where we're expanding next year, and it's probably going to take 30 seconds to list all this. Just kidding. But I'd love to hear your SOS approach to not only doctors, but really anyone in healthcare delivery, or really anyone who's experiencing the burnout.
And I loved how you said those 3 stages, because I call it, like, I have a wellness continuum that goes from 0 to 10, 10 being where you're moving mountains. And then 7 to 9 is where things are okay, you can improve. 4 to 6 is what I call the walking wounded, right? They know something's wrong. Maybe they're starting to drop the ball at work, or maybe they're starting to develop high blood pressure. And then you've got 3, 2, 1, where they need active recuperation, as you did, Dr. Faisel, with the pneumonia. And then, of course, 0 is barely breathing. And the thing is that when you're up at the upper reaches of 6 and 7, you're like, yeah, I can push through. I've got a vacation coming up. I got the weekends coming up. Yeah, I'm good. I'll just like get an extra couple hours of sleep on the weekend. And then in the middle, that's when you're like, something's not quite right here. And then it's like a diabetic coma, right? That lower, when you're not thinking straight. That's what that zombie level truly is like, where you just don't realize, just like you didn't realize that you were stumbling around. So I'm going to show something really, really quick. And that is that your actions create your feelings, right? Your body language talks to you and everyone else. So if you're sitting there at work like this and you're frowning and I was like, oh my Lord, how am I ever going to get through this? Right? How do you feel? Right? Versus sitting up straight, standing up straight, chin up, smile on your face, gaze straight forward. And if you need to, stick a pencil between your teeth. Because even if it looks silly, it's forcing your mouth into a smile. And that, of course, sends the message to your brain. Oh, she's smiling. She's happy. I better give more serotonin and happy hormones. Right? So, and you feel more confident. There's a reason why athletes do the huddle and the huh and the right. It's the body language that they're not just trying to intimidate the other team. They're really building up their own confidence, their own sense of power. And there's a reason why in basic training they spend so much time. Soldier, stand up straight, shoulders back, chin up, right? Because they're taking young newbies who are wet behind the ears and they're training them to have the confidence to be able to head into the worst kinds of battle, right? So that is the first thing that I teach, is that you can make that change. And so my family got used to it. My clients got used to it. I said, stick a pencil in it. Yeah. All right, to trial. Really easy. And you can call it faking it till you make it. But the fact is that sends the muscle memory, like sends the neural signals up that, oh, I'm relaxed. My shoulders are down. They're not up here. My shoulders are down. I'm smiling. I'm in a good place. And that automatically reverses the stress. So that's
it's an active process. Yeah, it's an active process. You know, I mean, and some of us, I know when I'm in that situation, I have my quick 1, 2, 3 rapid dial people that I'll reach out to. Dr. Dan is one. Just let him know I'm in a situation, and he helps somehow, no matter what the situation has been. We always end up laughing, and when you laugh, you smile. Suddenly, you get relaxed, and the posture changes. I call curled up in a ball in a fetal position. You're not going to believe it. And then suddenly, it's relaxed. I agree. Wonderful.
So put a sign on your computer saying stick a pencil in it.
I love it.
And see how that goes. So do I have time for a little bit more?
Of course.
Okay. So the next one that I teach, I've taught to top level athletes, like athletes who are going for the gold, have literally done this before stepping on the ice and going to win a gold medal. Like anytime you need to bring your A game and truly ground and center and be focused in the moment, this is the next step. Now, this requires a little bit of posture change. I'm going to be doing it while I'm standing, so we'll see how good my posture is. And if anyone has trouble with this, reach out to Dr. Faisel afterwards and I will give a modification. So what you're going to do is take your left foot, cross it over the right. And then take your hands out in front, palms facing outwards. Right hand over the left. Interlace your fingers up under your chin. Can you do that?
I'm doing it.
Awesome. The next one, and I'll explain why if I have time, but right now I'm just going to show you. And I have this meditation. It's on Insight Timer. It's on YouTube. It's helped thousands of people. Take the tip of your tongue and place it gently on the roof of your mouth, behind your teeth and the ridge. And there's like that little ridge that tees in. Just gently touch that. Fun fact, they've done research that when you place the tip of your tongue there, They've done this in athletes in a double-blind controlled study, and it actually increases the strength of the torque around the knees. Amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Right? Because it's neurological, right? And I could get into the traditional Chinese medicine and the meridians. And then it's just very simply, I won't close my eyes, but you can close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths, visualizing that you're drawing your breath in through your left foot all the way up to the top of your head and hold it. And release it back down and out your right foot. Drawing your breath and energy in through your right foot all the way up to the top of your head and hold it. And slowly release it back down and out your left foot. One more time, breathing in through your left foot, drawing your energy all the way up to the top of your head and hold it. And slowly releasing it back down and out your right foot. And now releasing your feet, placing them flat on the floor, releasing your hands, bringing your fingertips together, palms not touching, steeple position, and breathing in through both feet all the way up to the top of your head and hold it. And slowly release it back down. And repeat that 2 more times. And then just relax. And what that does is it gets, right, you know, like when you're under stress, you look at an EEG, right, and it looks like a perfect storm. Everything's just like, ah, right? This slows down, like the deep breaths and the crossing gets the left and right side of your brains and nervous system talking together, and it's slowing it down. Like that. And then you can rub your hands together. This is another favorite one my clients love. Right? It's a form of mindfulness without having to really think about the mindfulness part, because you're focusing on the heat in your hands, feeling the tingling building up. And then just allow your hands to pull apart. You can actually feel the ball of energy and the tingling in your hands. And while you're focused on that, you're not focused on the fight that you had with your spouse before going to work. You're not worried about M Day, as I call it, mortgage day, and how you're going to pay your bills, right? You're focused here and now. And each of those, like even the twisty one, which I call the SOS meditation, can take like less than a minute to ground and center. And it really resets your amygdala. It resets the stress response. And then you're good to go for a little while longer. And perhaps win gold.
Wow. Dr. Kopp, thank you so much for joining us tonight. That was wonderful. What a great conversation, Dr. Dan.
Absolutely. I certainly feel better.
Awesome.
Me too. This is wonderful. Actually, I see a future of having Dr. Kopp join us in one of our national meetings and demonstrating a couple of the exercises for our doctors and our care teams.
I would love that.
Oh, well, thank you so much again, Dr. Kopp, for joining us. This was so wonderful.
Thank you for having me and for including me in your mission and your vision. It's truly been a joy and a pleasure.
It was a pleasure to have you on. And to our audience, thank you so much for joining us tonight. For more information about tonight's topic and to explore career opportunities with ChenMed, please visit chenmed.com. We're on track to open another 400 to 500 centers across the country. You're talking bringing on at least another 3,000 plus physicians, plus all the care teams to support the physicians. We believe access to primary care is a right, not a privilege.